You're either happening to it or it's happening to you. And I would say go happen to it. Go happen to your life. Happen to your schedule and happen to your writing. Show up for it, because otherwise, if you're passive, it's going to get you. It's just going to get you. So you got to be brave, and you got to go fight. And you got to fight for your habits, and those include your non-writing habits.
This is The Green Writer
with SD Smith
and Brett Harris.
Okay, dope quotation for today. Brett, I think you're going to like this one. Unlike all the other ones which you have hated so far, I think you've told me privately and you don't like my style, but I think we should keep most of those conversations off air. But I think you're going to like this one. I've mentioned it before, I believe, but this is from our good friend of the show, Aristotle. What was his? I wonder what is his first? Is it like John Aristotle? I don't know what his. This is from John Aristotle, and he says, "You are what you continually do. Excellence, therefore, is a habit." How's that one hit you?
Yeah, I love the emphasis on habits. We've talked about this before, and I often like to use also the term ritual. Kind of things that we do in a routine way, that we do in a purposeful way, that that shape us. And a lot of times in our culture, we tend to focus on these like big pushes, like I'm gonna, it's the new year, I'm going to write my novel, and then we push really hard for a month or so, and then we fall off the bandwagon, or I'm going to get in shape, and then we push ourselves really hard, then but true health, or prolific creative output, like this is the result of continually showing up and doing something, probably in a more sustainable way, not this massive effort, burn yourself out sort of effort, but a sustainable ritual or habit of sitting down, putting words on the page. That's why in previous episodes we've talked about the 100 for 100 challenge of just 100 words for 100 days. It's a very small word count goal, but the goal is to just build the habit of sitting down and writing. And so, yeah, I absolutely agree with Aristotle, and I would say Aristotle agrees with me.
Oh, that's more importantly, yeah. We got to get the order of priority there. The rank. It goes. I don't know if you're keeping track at home, but it's Brett and then Aristotle after that. That's number 1 and 2. But it's not, and I think that's a good emphasis what you just said. I'm thinking of it in contrast with another sort of a tendency we have, which is to think that we are brains on a stick, and that only the things that matter are the things that we're thinking in our minds. So if we believe the right things as far as we assent to them mentally, like I think this, and it's might be a little more of the Descartes, the Cartesian, I think, therefore I am, that mentally, if I have this information, and maybe even as Christians, we might think like, if I have this correct information in my mind, that's really who I am. Who I am is the list of things I assent to mentally, that I believe this correct information. And I think that's, and we spoke about dads at one point, but your dad you're always coming up with these wonderful quotations from your dad. And one thing that my dad would say often is, what you say you do is not what you do. What you do is what you do. And I think there's a lot about, like, you can have the correct information, but honestly, the Satan has the correct information, but it's not enough. It's not good. So what we do is what matters so often. And that's the things that we can think all the right things, even about like the craft or whatever, our calling or anything. But really what happens when the rubber meets the road? Like, what are we doing? What are the rituals we do? It's the same thing I think with worship, or with like who we say we love. Like, it's sort of that mentality kind of leads us, I think, to think things like, oh, my church is wherever when I go out for a walk or whatever, I'm thinking the right things. And it's not this embodied sort of belief. And I think it's important for us as writers to embody what matters to us. I think so that our habits are king. I think habits just beat everything else.
Yeah, or if you live in a queendom, then your habits would be queen.
That's true. That's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
Well,
I've never lived in a queendom, but that's somehow, that word sounds so wrong to me. It feels Like it violates some very important
I
norms.
feel like Lucy from Charlie Brown, likes to talk about her queendom. That's where
Queendom,
I
okay.
think I first heard it. Well, I think that you set the stage really well for our topic of discussion. Now, I think you're totally wrong about what Aristotle actually meant by his
Yes.
his quotation. I think you read your own interpretation into the text there.
Yes.
But I lo
Eisegeting Aristotle is actually the name of my next book.
Oh, that's great. That's your first nonfiction work.
Yeah, it's gonna be
That's
good.
great. Uh, so no, but I love what you're saying about it's what we do, not what we say, and so actually what I'd like to talk about today as our topic of discussion is non-writing habits that can help us as writers, that kind of
Mm,
maximize our success as writers. What are some non-writing habits? What are some rituals that we can engage in that can help us to be better writers and just healthier people as well? So I'd love to hear, Sam, what first comes to your mind when you think of
mm.
a non-writing habit that actually helps you as an author?
Man, this is so good. It's kind of like, how do you set the stage for what you're performing? You know, like no one goes to a you don't just sort of show up at a theater and you're like, "Hey, how about we throw something together and put," there's lots of preparation work that goes into a performance, like a play or something. And so it's always implied. There's always composition implied. And we think about composing as it relates to writing, like we're composing, but we're composing life and you're composing your day. So the immediate thing I thought of right away when you said that was I thought of this idea of like trying to make as few decisions as possible before you get to your writing. And that some of that is about like decision fatigue
Mm.
that we can and it's a little bit of about like and this is advice I've been given. I don't even remember who to credit it with. I've heard it probably several different places. But this idea of building momentum in your morning, like if you can, and again, you can't always do this. Sometimes there are other responsibilities. If you can, coming to your writing with as few decisions made as possible. That might mean like you're not coming into the kitchen in the morning and thinking, oh, okay, what am I going to do here? What am I going to eat? I've heard of Seth Godin, uh, a writer that I admire a lot. I think he just has a banana. And I don't know if it's like yogurt or something, but whatever it is, he has it's already there and it's already prepared and he knows exactly. So he's making zero decisions when he comes down to the kitchen in the morning. That's an example.
And yeah, you have people who, pick out their outfit for the next day, the night before, or maybe they just wear the same thing, all the time, like,
Like we, like we
like
do on
we
the
do,
podcast.
to minimize the decisions you're making. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I actually love that. I had a friend who did that, who wore the same, outfit to church for a year, and it was partly kind of maybe a little bit of, I don't know, like a protest against sort of materialism or that kind of a thing, or trying not to think about fashion or something like, or like kind of solidarity with poor uh, Christians. But he was but part of it was just like, I'm not going to make a decision about this. This is what I'm wearing, and it's a kind of a very normal kind of a thing. And I love that. I love the idea of removing as much. Because it is mental. Like, we think it doesn't. We think, well, I'm an adult. I'll decide what to wear when I get up in the morning. I'm not a little kid. I don't need to lay out my clothes, and I don't need somebody to tell me, or I don't need to decide what I'm going to eat. I'll come down there and I'll make a decision. Whatever. But I think we underestimate the power of the many decisions that we're forced to make and how much they stick in our minds, and
Yeah.
that it carries over into our writing.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, what I think you're really touching on is the topic of mental energy, which I think for any of our audience haven't really wrestled with or thought about mental energy as being a thing like physical energy. You really need to tap clue into this. This is huge for creativity and productivity. Mental energy is something that can actually be measured, and they've done studies, and it's really interesting showing studies where when people have to make decisions, when they have to resist a distraction or temptation, so to speak, it actually is draining something, mental energy, that then makes it harder for them to stay focused later. It makes them more likely to give into distraction or temptation later. And the way I like to explain mental energy is just using physical energy as an example. If you knew that you were going to go and play, in a soccer game, and you really wanted to show up your best, right? You you might warm up and do some things like that, but you're not going to go on a 5 mile run and then lift heavy weights and then do jump rope for an hour and then play tag with your friends and then go and try to play a soccer game. You're draining your energy, and you need that energy in order to perform your best. And so a lot of times, though, we basically do the equivalent of this with our writing. We're all day, we're doing school, we're dealing, we're having a fight with our sibling, we're having to deal with all sorts of things that are stressful, that take a lot of mental energy. We're trying to we're constantly getting distracted by you know videos and social media and things online, and all of that actually drains mental energy, so that when we finally like, okay, now I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write my story, I'm going to work on my project, it's like I got nothing,
Yeah.
or maybe I'm just super quickly distracted, or just run out of steam so quick. Well, it's the same as if you had done all those crazy
Yeah.
exercise things right before a soccer game. You're just going to run out of gas.
That's so true. I love that. And I even think about like for spiritual. You talked about temptation. Like I think about Elijah after on Mount Carmel when he's sort of defeated the prophets of Baal, and he's at this amazing high, incredible. The crowd is shouting, the Lord, He is God, which is Elijah's name, Elijah. And it's incredible, and he has so much energy. He's so hyped that he outruns a chariot, and he's very high energy. And then what happens after that? He lays down to die. He's like, I'm just dead. And he needs an angel to come. And an angel comes and gives him a snack and tells him to take a nap. And, about, so there's a spiritual component to preserving our physical and mental energy as well, I think, and emotional energy. So I think you're dead on. I think there's a related one too, which I don't know if this is true for you, but it takes mental energy when a lot of people anyway, when they go into a space and it's very messy. So I immediately think about like, uh, if my office, which I have a little like garden shed that's been converted into an office, which I call the forge, where I go to work, go to write. It's pretty small, and if it gets cluttered, which is very natural for me, like if it gets cluttered and stays, then that is such a I don't I frequently underestimate the mental drain of working in a cluttered space, and that could be the physical space, but also a digital space, like a laptop or something that is just full of open browsers and email, and people can ping you. And do you struggle with that too? And do you, I mean,
Yeah,
do you feel like that's important?
Actually, I mean, I feel like I'm a little bit called out. I feel like you sent a spy to look at my desk and be like, I'm gonna embarrass Brett on air here by saying that you need to have a tidy desk and workspace. No, actually, I recently, in preparation for even doing this show, I worked on sprucing up my office a little bit. I got this bookshelf, and it was amazing how just putting some intentionality into the space that I was in help my productivity. So I absolutely think that's true, and I'm going to be tidying up a little bit more in here after we finish recording today.
I think we think that again, it's this mental thing that I think that I have information. I have this capacity as a brain, as a really, I'm a rational being, and I think about things. And so that's silly. Of course, having my email open is not a problem because I'm capable of doing email, and I'm capable of writing my novel, and I'm capable of all these various things. But it's just not true. Human beings are not made that way. That's not how like, it does take space. It is a distraction. I think what you're talking about with your studies, I think is also backed up by sort of intuition and kind of common sense. Like I think it does drain us and it does distract us. And as many things as we can eliminate that drain or distract us, we need to do. And there is certainly a physical component, even to writing. Like you talked about that preparing for a soccer match. Do you feel like that's true? Is there a physical component to preparation for writing?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think taking care of our bodies is a way that we prepare ourselves to write and just to live fruitful, faithful lives in general. So things like you mentioned, you know, eating and hydrating, getting sleep. I mean, all of these things.
That'd be another episode.
That
Should we?
probably
Should
should
we?
be its own episode. Let's
Yeah,
circle back to that, like the taking care of
good.
your body, your own biology. But if I could give one tip to wrap things up that I think just ties together some of the stuff we talked about. I think that eliminating distractions specifically. So we've talked about trying to make few decisions, preserving that mental energy. We've talked about cleaning up your environment so that's not a drain on your mental energy. And then we've touched on this idea of distractions, temptations, but I actually would say that this is something that for young people and for myself has been huge, is very purposefully eliminating the distractions that can take you away from your writing or just drain your mental energies throughout the day. So I actually use browser extensions and settings on my phone to block a lot of the internet, to block a lot of time waster sites that I will tend to go check on, or apps.
Mm,
And there's so many tools that have been created today for people who want to do this, because it's such a problem. We're all
mm,
realizing I'm trying to be focused, I'm trying to create good work, but I'm constantly getting interrupted or distracted, or, oh, I should check this, or, oh, I should check that. And so
yeah.
actually setting up my devices to where those distractions and temptations are eliminated, at least for the period of time when I'm trying to be really focused, has been a
Mm,
huge boost to my effectiveness as a writer and any other kind of work that I do. So just to kind of make that, really pull that out as its own thing, like using tools and apps and browser extensions and all of the great things that exist today to help eliminate those distractions, because they drain your mental energy even when you're not giving in to the distraction. Even when you're like,
mm,
oh, I should check my email and see if that email came in. No, 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 I won't. I need to stay focused. Oh,
yeah.
I wonder if so and so has posted their cover reveal yet for their new book. I should check. No, no, I've got to stay focused. Even when you're staying focused, that is draining mental energy like nuts. And
Mm,
so just eliminating the ability to check, like, oh, I can't check. I blocked social media. I've blocked I've blocked email, or I've turned off notifications. I can just have mental peace as I
sorry, I've gotta,
on my
this is
writing.
important to me, but I gotta check this real quick. I can't,
Oh my goodness. What a what an
what
example of everything
oh,
wrong
oh my
that we've
goodness,
been
the
trying to teach
hypocrisy.
our, just
Oh.
undermining everything we've said with a hypocritical. I'm gonna
That was good acting, though. I
I'm
think
gonna post I'm gonna post about this on
yeah.
social media right now. Okay.
It's so good. You're so it's so true. And there's a quotation that one of my favorites, which is the shame of it is we don't know for sure if John Dryden actually said this, but I don't care. It's so true. And the quotation is that's attributed to John Dryden is we first make our habits and then our habits make us. And what's what you're talking about. Like you have to go on the front foot. Like you have to go for it. You have to. It's either you're either happening to it or it's happening to you. And I would say go happen to it. Go happen to your life. Happen to your schedule and happen to your writing. Show up for it, and because otherwise, if you're passive, it's going to get you. It's just going to get you. So you got to be brave and you got to go fight. And you got to fight for your habits, and that those include your non-writing habits.
I love it. Well, let's I'm going to close us in prayer here. Dear Lord, thank you so much for this discussion. Thank you for Sam. Thank you for all of the wisdom that he shared with us today and his dope quotations. I hope that every viewer and listener out there is able to take something today and and put it into practice in their life, that they would happen to their life. They wouldn't just let all the ways that social media, the internet, and apps try to drag them away from their writing and their creativity. They wouldn't just let that happen to them, but they would happen to their life. That they would put those blocks in place. That they would put in place a clean workspace and environment, that they would put in place minimizing the amount of decisions and things they have to do before they're diving into their creativity, that they would protect their creativity, and that then from that protected place they would create something beautiful and good and true, that's able to be shared with others and bless the world and make the world a better place. So help all of us, help me as I tidy up my own workspace and apply what we talked about today. And watch between us until we're back together again. Thank you for everyone in our audience. Bless them, and
Mm,
may you be glorified by all that we say and do. In Jesus' name, amen.
and
Well, that's a wrap on this episode of The Green Writer.
thanks for listening.
Now would be a good time to subscribe so you don't miss a new episode.
And then share this episode with a friend.
We believe in you.
and we're on your side.